My name is Matt Williamson. I'll be your host today. First, I'll start by introducing our speaker, Derek Jacobs. Then he will give his presentation, which will be about 30 minutes, followed by a short question and answer session. If you think of any questions during the presentation, please enter them into the chat box at any time, and we'll go through some of those at the end. So now, first of all, I'd like to introduce Derek Jacobs. Derek is a seasoned professional and structural engineer with over 16 years of experience. Since joining ADF Engineering in 2011, he's worked on various projects, including facility building additions, equipment access walkways, and foundation systems. Derek's expertise covers structural condition assessments, OSHA compliance, wind and seismic design. He is skilled in personnel management, project definition, proposal development, and cost estimation, as well as collaborating with contractors and providing on-site construction support. Now I'll turn it over to Derek for today's presentation.
All right, thank you, Matt. Welcome everybody. Happy to be here. I'm gonna kind of be going over this talk. I've given it in person a few times at a few different sites, so hopefully it comes pretty easily, but I'm used to doing it in front of a live audience, so bear with me. And yeah, like Matt said, if any of you guys have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and I can stick around afterwards as long as I need to, and we can get all those answered for you. So I will see, make sure I get that. Nope, wait a minute. Click the right window there. There we go. Okay, so I think first I always start with, a lot of times people have some questions with what exactly does a structural engineer do? I know there's a lot of times there's also a little bit of confusion between structural engineers and architects. And I'd say that architects do a lot of like planning for life safety, a lot of, flow of office spaces and, things like that. But the structural engineers are the ones that are responsible for essentially the skeleton of any building, and making sure that it's a solid system that stays where you want it and, does everything you need it to do. So yeah, we here at ADF, we're mostly with industrial design with our plants. So we do a lot of steel work, a lot of concrete, not a lot of timber, but it has been done for some salt buildings and plants and stuff like that. But we get into a lot of towers, buildings, equipment supports, a lot of access platforms. When we also get involved with fall protection and safety issues too, because a lot of times that does have a structural impact. So when we start a project, the first thing we really need to do is determine what kind of load that we're going to be dealing with and how much. A lot of the projects, again, like we do, and a lot of the stuff we see on sites is related to a process upgrade. So we will have a lot of ideas of what the equipment needs to be, what the changes need to be done there, and we will have to look at it in terms of what does all this weigh? How much space is this going to take up? And that kind of sets our structural basis for design. So we look at things like, what building code we're dealing with. We look at the site-specific information, such as the geological stuff, if we have foundations and questions. And we'll look at, what the existing buildings are, if there are any. And I'll kind of touch on that more later. And then, sometimes there's stuff like cost schedule restrictions we run into a lot, and even some limitations on height, and depending on the area the building is in, there can be other things there. So we have to take that into account, and then we'll generate that preliminary design. A lot of times that goes through gate reviews or costing phases, and then while we're receiving the final equipment information, and once that all comes in and those layouts are approved, we'll finalize that design and issue it. We're kind of going into the meat of the presentation today. I'm going to be covering a lot about terminology and how that terminology affects or comes into play with drawings, and what you can see on drawings, and what a lot of these words you hear when talking to a structural engineer that maybe